All righty. Welcome, everybody. Hope you're having a good Saturday night. Tonight, we're going to be doing a question and answer session. Any kind of question about hobby CNC? Not hobby CNC, hobby CNC.
Yeah, my CNC, your CNC, everybody's CNC.
Yeah. We got some folks already in the house tonight. We got Steve Adkins, Joe Liddon, David Jones from Portal Woodworks, Dwight Bennett from Indy. How you doing, Dwight? Thomas Grimm, Larry Galt, and let's see, Hitch Hamilton in the house, watching over on the Facebooks. How you doing, Hitch? Bart Bixel, apparently an Oregon Duck fan. Harry's Place. Let's see here. Dave Matthews, Mike Haichu, and Simply Jim. I'm not sure who that Jim is. But welcome, Jim, whoever you are. Dave Mitchell's in the house tonight. Brian Moomey. Clay's in the house. Dale. All right, we got a good bunch of folks here already. And more piling in, it looks like. So welcome. I've got my normal gang here. Hobby, I'll go ahead and introduce yourself. I'll let you guys introduce yourselves instead of me doing all the talking. Go ahead.
Well, this is Hobby from Hobby's Woodshop on YouTube, and fellow Gatton CNC owner and CNC enthusiast and woodworking enthusiast. Jim?
Yeah, my name's Jim Sinicola, and I call my shop Totally Wood Workshop. And I'm in Midland, Michigan, and it's cold up here.
Jim looks cold, doesn't he? He's all bundled up. There.
Yeah, I got a jacket on and sweatshirt.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys for hanging in here with me tonight. Got a few more coming in here. Dave Krause, Ed Newman. Hello, Ed. How are you? Kevin Wilkinson from Philadelphia. Leroy CNC Woodworks. How you doing? Good to see y'all in here. Before we get started taking your questions, I hope y'all brought whatever questions you might have. I thought I would talk about just a couple other things real quick. One is I want to make sure, and let me, I should have already had this set up, but let me screen share real quick. I want to make sure that everybody understands that the Christmas challenge, or as it's known, the 2019 Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge, I think for some folks it may be a little confusing. They think because it's called the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge that they have to have a Gatton CNC in order to enter the challenge. And that's not, that couldn't be farther from the truth. It's called the Gatton CNC Challenge because I created the challenge, but it's open to anybody with any kind of a CNC machine. You can have a Cam Master, an X-Carve, whatever, Axiom. Doesn't matter what it is. And you can use either a 3D printer, because that's technically CNC. You could use a CNC router of any kind and also a CNC laser, any of those you want to make. But I just wanted to show the website right here. If you come right to this is the main homepage you'll see when you go to the davegatton.com. And I got this big red button that you can't miss right here that says challenge. And when you click on it, it will take you over here to the information about the challenge. Here's how the little form you can fill out to send me your entry. It's got the rules here. And also, if you're having trouble thinking of a project, there are playlists right here for the 2016, 17, and 2018 Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. So I think each year we have somewhere between 15 and 20 videos entered. So, you can surely look at some of those and probably come up with some ideas for for your own project. So just wanted to show that real quick. Also, another thing, I don't have anything on here just yet on the website, but I think I may try something brand spanking new that I've never done before. Everybody these days seems to have some kind of a Black Friday sale. So I'm going to come up with some kind of a sale that will be my version of a Black Friday sale. Now, it's not going to be like some of these other stores where I noticed I saw something online the other day and they were calling it their Black Friday sale, but it started, November 1st or something. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But anyway, so be checking back on the website, and I'll be posting, on Facebook and Instagram and all that when I have something on there. But yeah, there'll be a Black Friday sale this year on my website. So you might want to look for that. Let's see what else we got here. Not really much anything else. Of course, everybody knows daylight savings time ends this weekend. Everybody's probably tired of hearing about that. So if you live in one of those stupid states like I do, where you have to set your clocks back, don't forget to do it. And I don't know how anybody could forget these days, because it's all over the place. Like I said, by now you're probably tired of hearing about it. And the other thing too is I got a notice from the folks at StreamYard today that there's some changes. I don't even know if they're going to be taking effect during this stream, or they may be rolling them out in tomorrow or something. But supposedly super chats are supposed to show up here like they do on the YouTube stream. So I don't know about that. So if anybody wants to send me a super chat so we could test that out, that would be awesome.
That's one way.
That's one way to do it, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go ahead and get started. Has anybody got? Let's see. We got a bunch more folks over here now, I think. Let's see. Kevin Wilkinson says, "Love the coffee sessions, but can't attend. I'm at work." Yeah, I don't expect people to be watching at work, but thank you for checking it out. I appreciate it. Okay, so we got some folks here. We got Tommy G in the house. How you doing, Tommy G? Haven't seen him in a long time.
He's been in absentia.
Dave Mitchell's from Seattle, Wyoming. Barry Curtis is right here in Georgia. Ryan Ballard's in the house. Was out trick or treat with kid. Yeah. Okay, so looky here. Let's see. We've got it. See, it worked. The super chats show up in the comments now, where they didn't before. So that's something brand new that StreamYard keeps improving this platform, and I couldn't be happier with those guys that do it. So thanks for the super chat there, David. I appreciate that. That helps me check that out. So Good to know that works. So thank you, CNC's in the house tonight.
I like that. Nice and blue there.
Yeah, I really like that. Okay, so we're here, open forum. What's on your mind with your CNC? What kind of questions you got? Let's see what rolls in here. If we don't have any, it'll be a short show, I guess. How many of y'all that are out there watching tonight watched last week when we did the show about the LinuxCNC? Jim Santacola did. Yeah. Okay. Well, here's a kind of an off-topic question, but how much does YouTube take from super chats? I don't even know, but they get their cut for sure.
10-15%, something like that.
Yeah, it's Let's see. Mike Haichu says, after last week's show, is there an advantage of using Linux CNC if I already have Mach 3?
No.
Probably not. I mean, if you already have Mach 3 and you're already using it, you're familiar with it, I would say it's probably a wash then as far as
Yeah.
changing to, even though Linux CNC is free. I've actually, I don't know if you can see it. If I move back out of the way, I got a monitor right back here, and I've got another computer set up, and I'm playing around with the Linux CNC stuff, and it's I think there's, just my opinion now. Somebody else out there may want to have a different opinion, but there's you got to know a little bit more about the Linux stuff. I noticed like a lot of the guys that say they use it are like IT guys and stuff like that. So it comes kind of second nature to them. But if you're just a regular Joe and you're not, let me turn that comment off, Jim, so I don't cover you up. Yeah, if you're just a regular Joe, there's, you got to kind of learn the syntax and all that kind of stuff of how to do things. And I mean, it's not hard. I think pretty much anybody could do it, but it's a little different, I think. And again, the good thing about Mach 3 that I always say is, and I know people say, well, they don't support it anymore, but that don't matter, because there's a gazillion people out there using it, so you can always get help from Facebook groups or other people that use it. I've never contacted ArtSoft and said, hey, I'm having a problem with Mach 3. How do you do this? I watch somebody's videos or something, and you always figure out how to do it. So
there's also more of a chance that if you're new to CNC, there's more of a chance. There's a lot more computers that can run Linux CNC that can run Mach 3. I mean, it takes a lot less power to run Linux. And because as Mach 3, you got to have Windows as a base. That's a resource hog. So there are advantages if you haven't chosen anything yet. If you're already running Mach 3, unless you want to free up that computer and you have an old crappy computer that you want to use, then that's about the only reason I would see to switch. Unless, like Dave and myself, you're experimenters and you feel like, oh, let me try this out.
Yeah. I just want to try it out, and I haven't had time to really stick with it and stuff. But I have got it installed. I'm playing around with some other stuff. Troy's asking here, how did you do on your Linux tryout, Dave? I haven't even tried running it with the machine yet. I've just been playing around, trying out the different. I think the way Linux, they call it something else. They don't call it screen sets like Mach 3 does, but it's basically having a different look. And the ones I've looked at that came with it, I mean, and there's several of them, but none of them really.
Every person.
None of them really get me excited.
Every person's different, and you're like me. If you're used to a certain format that you've been indoctrinated with, whether it be Mach 3 or WinCNC, then you kind of want to stick to that, and you want to turn the other one into that, and well, it takes effort.
Yeah. Well, what I'm planning on doing, and that's why I have it set up back here and not at a machine, is I'm going to be playing around with that Glade. They call it Glade. It's a program where you can design your own screen set and your own buttons and all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of going through. There's a guy that has some real good tutorials on YouTube. So I'm been watching those and trying to play around, and it's going to be a slow process to do that. But if I can get a different or a screen set, in fact, let me
Your
see.
buddy, your buddy Hitch apparently didn't have audio on Facebook, so he's switching over to YouTube. Hopefully, he'll get a
Okay,
audio there.
I haven't even had Facebook open over here, so. But let me, while since we're talking about this, I'm gonna put in here and see if I can find that thing I was showing you the other day, Javi. That screen.
Yep.
Let's see if I can find it. And what I did is I Googled.
Now,
I just
Rob Schuster said, sorry to interrupt, Dave. Rob Schuster said he had better luck with Pi VCP than Glade. So
Okay.
make a note of that. Maybe you might want to try that.
Yeah. Okay.
I
Yeah.
guess that's,
Python Virtual Control Panel.
I was going to say, is that a Python based? There you go. Yep.
Okay. Now let me see if I can find this screen. Of course, I found it real easy. Oh, here it is, I think. Yeah, this is it. So let me see if I can get this up here, and then I'll. Oh, nuts. Where is it? Here it is, I think. Yeah. All right. So let me screen share again. But this is a screen that I found, and I don't know who this guy is, but what little bit I read, he builds and sells CNCs. And so if he has a customer that wants Linux, this is a custom panel that he's, control panel or whatever you want to call it, that he's done. And if you look at it closely, and if you're a Mach 3 user, you notice that it's very similar to Mach 3 because you've got your reset, lower left, stop, pause, start, which would be the same as the cycle start. You've got your scrolling text right here. You've got right here in the center, you've got your DROs, you've got your little screen. So you can see that it's very, very similar to the way Mach 3 is laid out. It just looks totally different. And this guy has done it just, because he gives it away with the CNC machines that he builds for people that want Linux. And then if they want WinCNC, or is it WinCNC? Is that what it's called, Javi?
WinCNC.
Okay, yeah, he does another one with a special thing. So I really like that because it's different, but yet since I'm very familiar with Mach 3, everything is kind of in the same place. And of course, it still doesn't have as many bells and whistles as Mach 3. If you look at the top, you got the main screen, you got an MDI screen, and you got toolpath. And I think Mach 3 has about 6 of them, I think, because they have
Mach 3 and WinCNC are extremely similar in their in the way you can customize the window.
Yeah.
GUI. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm trying to work on, is work on some kind of a screen that I can be happy with for myself, because all the other screens that came with it, just like I said, they just didn't do anything for me. I wasn't, I didn't like any of them. Some of them were just, some of them were had too much on one thing, and some of them had too little.
Well, here's a question I have for you, Dave. It occurred to me because most of the time I'll run the program 99% of the time, and I'm not even looking at the screen. Because I know what it's going to do if I ran it right. And obviously, if you're making Gattons, such is the case for you. But what features on your screen, if anything, do you actually use? I mean, it's nice to have them all, but do you actually use any of them, or other than maybe speed up and slow down?
Well,
during operation, I guess, or do you use them?
There's quite a few. I mean, it's like you said, a lot of times you hit the button and you check it out and make sure it's running right. And then, the first couple of minutes, and then you walk off and you leave it. A lot of times I'm not even watching mine. I'm
Right.
looking at it on a camera or something.
Yeah.
But then when you think about it, there's so many times where if something happens and you're trying to find the spot where you need to back up to, you can push that button and then watch to see what highlights over in that screen.
Yeah.
There's, of course, I use the Auto Tool Zero button all the time when I'm setting up my Z. Now, for the programs that I run all the time, like when I'm cutting and Gatton CNC kits, yeah, probably not so much. I'm going to be doing different things. But when I'm running something else, yeah, there's, if you said, well, what on there do you want to give up and take off? I couldn't think of anything, because at some point or another, I've used all of that on the screen pretty much. So now for me, the one thing that's not a big deal would be the spindle, because since I have that remote that you made me for my spindle, and I'm looking over at the wall to see the RPMs on the VFD, I'm not worried about that. But for other people that have that,
the
relay, and they, that would be important to them.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just was not impressed at all with the different screens. They give you a few up. Now, one thing I do like though is you can go to your I guess it's kind of like an XML file, only they call it the INI file. And you can open it up and you can add where it says display. You can put several different screens and then just comment them out. And, whichever one you don't have commented out, when you open it up, it'll open it up. Well, if you go, oh, I want to try this other one, you can just real quickly go in and edit that, put, comment that one out, the one that you're using, and take the comments off the other one, and then reopen it. And so that was kind of neat to have that. So, but yeah, not a whole lot to report as far as the LinuxCNC, but it is something I want to play around with.
Yeah.
But with my limited time right now, it's going to be a long process for me to play around with it. And like I said, I really, once I got it installed and everything and started playing around with it with those initial screens, I thought, well, I need to try to take it out there and hook it up to the machine to see what it does. But like I said, I want to be able to, if I'm out there and got it hooked to the machine that starts doing something, I want to know, how do I stop this thing, or what are, and with the buttons and the screens the way they are, I'm thinking, nah, I'm going to wait until I get something that I like as a screen before I do it. One thing I will add, I said I was going to report on using the, that import from Mach 3 XML file.
Right.
That worked great as far as setting up the ports and pins. It got all of those right, but it did not pick up any of the limit switch pin settings or the touch plate pin settings, any of that. It didn't pick any of those up. It just left those out. But what it did import was correct. So, and that's kind of the way it goes when you're using CNC and you're trying to import Mach 3. It gets most everything, and what it does get, it gets right. It just doesn't get everything. So, it's not like, oh, let me just import this and then load that one up and go. You have to go back and check through everything anyway. So to me, that import function, saves you a little time, but it's not that big a deal.
Right.
If it's not going to get it where does everything and nails it, it's not that big a deal to me. So I don't see any other questions over there. I guess we can wrap this up. Well,
earlier, let's see, who was it?
Or did I miss some questions? Maybe I missed some. Let me scroll down.
Steve, I think it was Steve. No, Troy was asking you how your LinuxCNC rollout or whatever went.
I think there was another question about the parallel port required for Linux.
Gotta have a parallel port.
Yeah. And again, that's the like I said, I didn't know a whole lot about Linux, but I learned a bunch last week talking with the guys that I had on here. So, you know, it's I have to say it's a little less attractive to me because yeah, the Linux stuff is free, but if you want to try to run it on something more modern, now you're talking, you know, $100 to $200 for a card that works with an Ethernet port and stuff like that. So, and of course, you got to learn how to use it with that as well. So, anyhow,
Yeah, if anybody has
that makes it, because the whole purpose of me wanting to try it is because it's free, like everybody else. You know, that's why we want to use it, because it's free, and you can use it on an old computer, and you know. But then I'm thinking, well, okay, well, what if you want to use it, but a lot of these more modern computers don't have a parallel port, and you know, what else can you use? Well, if you know, unless you want to buy one of the parallel port cards, and again, you have to get the right one, or some of those work, some of those don't work from what I've seen on YouTube. So, yeah, that, you know, I'm still going to play around with it because I've already got it and got it running and can play around with it and stuff. But the jury's still out on whether I would really feel like I need to switch permanently from that. I saw another.
Yeah, there's Dave Mitchell's asking a question about aluminum angle. Is there a big difference between 6061 and 6063?
If you've already bought it and you got 6063, you can use that. 6061 is more, you know, I mean, when you read the description, when you look to buy it, it'll say that it's, you know, a good machinable aluminum. Here's the thing. Let me speak to this aluminum angle stuff again. I still see so many people out there that I'm just going to call them out. You got your facts wrong about the aluminum angle. People will say, well, you know, you got a hardened steel V-groove bearing and it's going to wear out that aluminum angle. That's just not good. I'm here to tell you the V-groove, yeah, the aluminum angle does not have that V shape when you start. It'll be a rounded thing, or it might be a point and then come down on the other side. But that's fine. You want it to wear. But when it wears down to where it forms the V, that's what you want to run a V-groove bearing on.
And moving it back and forth for an hour tops, it's worn. That's all I did was move it a few times back and forth, and then maybe a week later just tweak it, and it's never moved since. And I am willing to bet that Dave's, in God knows how many years of running his CNC, is still in the same condition.
Yeah. Now I see Mark Lindsay's in the chat here, and he can attest as well as Hobby. But when I built my machine, let's see if I can even.
Like everyone else, I considered. You know, I thought, well, doesn't it make more sense to use steel? And it was, well, no, because
okay,
aluminum is straighter.
I'm going to screen share, and let's see. I can't blow it up though.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see, but I got to do it over here. Right here, where my pointer is. You can see right here is where the screws are screwing this in. So what I did is, when I went to put the screws for my angle, I made little marks, and you can see there's little black Sharpie marks.
I see the marks are still there. Yeah.
If you look close, and they're on the top one too. This is not a good picture to show this because you can't really see them. Mm-hmm. But those marks I made so that I could put the screws for the angle right in between, right dead in the middle of where the other ones are. Well, when I put a mark on that angle, it was on the top part of the angle too. And as those V groove bearings wore that in, they got rid of the part where it wore the V, but the part right in the center, that mark is still there. It has not wore that off in going on 4 years. So I get a little frustrated when I keep seeing people that don't know what the heck they're talking about saying, oh no, you got to use steel angle or you got to do this. Aluminum angle is not even good.
No.
I
Aluminum angle
personally
is
think the
straighter.
aluminum angle is better than the steel because it's going to wear in quicker. And then once it gets to that V groove, that V shape, you're golden. That's what you want.
Unless that steel is perfectly machined, uh, and perfectly straight, and you're never gonna dent it, because steel is very unforgiving. The bearing riding on that steel, it's gonna cause a lot of friction when if it's not. I mean, the basically what you're doing with the aluminum is smoothing it out, and at the same time it's perfectly straight.
Yeah. I
Hey,
mean,
Dave, try your magnify button on your picture and see if it blows it up.
oh yeah, that's a good idea. I keep forgetting I have that. Let's see.
Magnify.
Let's see if I may have to,
Under the second T of Gatton, there's one. Oh, but you want the top. Yeah.
well,
The ones on the bottom are easier to see.
yeah, the ones on the bottom,
But you can't see the
but you can
edge.
see where that's the mark. But if you could imagine this same mark being on this top angle where it's hard to see because of the angle of the camera angle there. But that little tick mark is still there, and will always be there because unless I wipe it off, because it's not going to. I got to get this crazy thing off here. There we go. The bearing's not touching that part anymore. It's riding on that V like it should. So I don't know, but some people you just can't get it. They think, well, aluminum's a soft metal, and it is. But in this case, that's what you want. And steel angle, and I'm used to working in the sheet metal business, folks. I know about structural angle and aluminum angle and all this stuff. And there's not a piece of steel angle you'll get anywhere that's straight and true like aluminum angle is. So use what you want. I don't care. I keep saying that too, but I just get tired of people putting out misinformation about the aluminum angle, telling other people, no, you can't use that. You can't use that. Well, yeah, you can.
That's just like you can't ride a wooden CNC, right, Dave?
Yeah, you can do that too.
I stood on one like a surfboard, and it's 80 inches long. So I'm heavier than Dave, and my gantry is considerably longer. So, oh yeah, and if you don't believe that, then I'll create one twice as long.
Yeah. All right. Did I miss any other questions?
I didn't see anything here at the moment.
Let's see.
Hang on,
Yeah,
there's
I
one
keep
up there.
while I was on my rant there. I got Mark took pictures of it when he was here. Whenever that was. What was that? A couple years ago, I think. Now, I'm here. Can the show start over? Yeah, we'll start it over just for you, Matt. I've worn down steel faster than the other with them same wheels on another machine I use. The only exception to the aluminum wearing is that, folks, I forgot to mention that the people that keep over tightening things, you will wear them out quick.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you just let them wear in the way they should only be, the bottom one should only be pushed up until you can't really move them with your fingers, or maybe loosely move them with your fingers, but yet it's hard. You can feel that friction where it's touching the angle. And if you do that, you won't have any issues. Let's see here. Maple Tree Solutions in the house. How you doing? I don't see. Let's see if I missed any questions.
Yeah, I like what Mark said. This is the final testament to the aluminum angle is to remember that your Gatton CNC was cut on a machine that's using the same aluminum angle that was originally installed on it in 2016.
Yeah. Yeah.
It puts it all in perspective. Don't mess with what works. You know?
Look what happens when you leave the door unlocked.
Goodness
Jamie
gracious.
snuck in here with his team scroll saw stuff.
Yeah. No, I don't.
Welcome, Jamie. We do allow scroll saw people to watch this show.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned scroll saw. I just met my new neighbor out here at the property, and he's a woodworker, and he's getting into scroll sawing. So it's promising. I can't wait till the place is built and the shop is built in 3 or 4 years, and basically I'm gonna have a neighbor buddy woodworker to hang out with. Hopefully, Poor him.
Steve Hint says, I have no idea what the heck you guys are talking about. Well, he must have just got here then.
The aluminum angle? No, he was here earlier.
Really? Piece of what, Jamie? Okay, yeah. He says, Jared Seymour, good to know. I have about 20,000 experience on my cuts, and my response was to tighten up the bearings on the aluminum angles. Better loosen them up a tad. Well, if you're having 20,000, have you run the calibration to dial that in with a test piece?
And a stupid question.
Steve says aluminum angle on what? Yeah, we're talking about the aluminum angle that is used as the rails that the V-groove bearing rides on
CNC.
Let's see if I can
Get the main drawing on one of your on the home page. I thought you had one.
Let's see here. Yeah, here's a good
Oh, there you go.
thing. I think it will show.
Yep.
Yeah, this is a much clearer shot, but this is aluminum angle. There's 4 pieces here that let me cut that off.
Yeah,
that is what the V-groove bearing. Here's the V-groove bearings here, so that's what this rides on. So
yeah, and it's missing the box. You've got another couple there.
Apparently, Steve is not familiar with Gatton CNCs. I'm guessing. All right, let's see. Mark says, I tighten my bottom bearings finger tight and lock them down. I do check them on occasion, but I never tighten them more than finger tight if they need tightening at all.
I'm the same way.
Yes, on that. Yes, on the Gatton CNC.
There's 6 of them. I mean, finger tight is plenty.
Yeah, Larry said he had
in fact, you can even crank them down with your finger where the thing won't move, and you'd have to you're.
Larry said he had another Molex connector fail this week. 2 down, 2 to go. I guess he's just waiting until they fail
to replace them with solder.
I go ahead and cut them suckers off and either use a terminal block to tie or solder them together or something. Yeah, I don't trust Molex connectors. They're fine for a while, but if you're in a dusty environment, and I'm running mine all the time, that dust gets in there and it'll burn them up.
They're great if they're on a non-moving wire. If you're plugged in and you're not going to move that wire, then that's fine, and you need to occasionally take it off, service something, and put it back together. Great. But if it's constantly moving back and forth, it's going to work its way loose.
Well, I use trailer wire that you can get at any big box store that has rubber connectors. And when you put them together, they're waterproof, dustproof, and you can replace them easily.
Yep. It's another.
And I've been running that for 3 years.
That's another way to do it. You can go really expensive and buy aircraft connectors, or do what I do is mount them permanently with solder. If in the rare occasion that a motor or a driver goes bad, then, I cut and I resolder. It's not a big deal.
Well, on my stepper motors, I made a piece 12 inches long and connected it. So if the motor goes bad, I can just pull the motor off and don't have to rewire my whole machine.
Right, but you got to rewire the motor anyway.
A solder gun, pull it off,
with the new connector
on the other one.
Exactly, and if you're going to do that, you might as well just leave it all permanently wired, assuming it runs fine. Test it. I solder all the cables in place, and I've never had an issue. And when they go bad, I'll cut them and resolder them, because you're going to have to cut and resolder a connector on anyway. So, they don't come with Molex connectors, so it makes no sense to me. But that's me. Everybody has their own way of doing things.
Mr. Awesome Wood Things here has a question. He says, the gantry rides on the V wheels, but the Acme screws move everything, correct? Yes, pretty much.
Yes.
The motors, your stepper motors turn a precision Acme lead screw that's 1/2 by 10 with 5 starts, and it runs through a 1/2 Acme nut provided by Dumpster CNC, or at least that's the one I use.
And if you over tighten them, you can break them. The Molex.
Yeah, you can.
Dumpster.
Mark says, yeah, the folks who haven't watched the build videos self-identify once again. Yeah. Yeah, you can tell who's up to speed and who isn't on watching this stuff. I see Jared says that was the result on a test piece, working through it, but my first response was to tighten everything that I could. Next, I'm going to replace my spoil board and re-level it and trim. Yeah. Yeah, most machines, and I put together a lot of different, the Garage Works and even ones before that. But I found if you do a decent job putting it together, you're probably going to be, you may not get the same results, but I can get something. It'll usually be within 10 thou without even running any calibration. If you really take your time and get things set up right and make sure everything's snug but not over tightened and all that.
Yeah, there's a question about wire, and you want to use stranded, not solid copper, and you don't want to use aluminized copper either.
Right. Yeah, I don't remember where that. Yeah,
it just said wire. I think it was Awesome Wood Things. Said wire.
Oh yeah, here it is. Wires. Yeah. Yeah.
You want to use stranded.
Yeah, definitely stranded wire.
Like I say, I use the trailer wire, and I believe that's 16 gauge, and you could use 22 gauge if you want to, instrument wire, but you can use shielded wire, but you want to use stranded.
I see Jerry Bonifield's got a question here. He says, I had one fail. Called Jeff at Xylotex. He set me straight on how to fix. I use thin wire ties and tape to seal connection from dust. No more problems. Yeah, if you take like electrical tape, like when you put the two Molex connectors together and wrap it up good, that will help them last longer, but they will still fail eventually. They're just not a real good connected.
Well, like I said, they were never meant for movement.
Yeah.
Never meant for movement.
So.
If Jerry's now if Jerry has them, for instance, on both sides of the connector, you have a wire tie screwed into a place, and then it's fixed. Well, then there's a lot smaller chance that it'll come apart. But I've even had one come apart. I had an air conditioning that it didn't move, and yet just the movement of the air conditioner, the vibration alone was enough to.
Yeah, and the other thing too is when you get them taped up like that, yeah, you're keeping the dust out of them, but they still get kind of warm, you know. So I would either cut them off and just use a soldered connection, or like what I do. You know how that when you get stepper motors, they'll have here's one right here. It's got probably maybe a foot of wire length for the 4 wires. Mm-hmm. Well, on a lot of places on mine, I'll have the stepper motor, and then I'll have these wires go into one of those little terminal blocks, and then I bring my other wire to the other side of that terminal block and do them that.
Yeah, see, there's another great idea. If you have a terminal block, I mean, I still say it's best to solder them and heat shrink them. That's as good as wire can get. But the next best thing is especially if you're changing them on a regular basis, then definitely do that. But if you're going to solder these things onto a connector, why? Because I understand soldering to connect. I mean, it makes no sense to me. Soldering items to connectors is if you want them removable. This is not a removable piece. The day you're going to remove it is when it fails and you're putting a new one on. And what are you going to do? Solder it to a new connector again? It makes no sense to use a connector in the first place. But that's just me.
Yeah. No,
what do I know? All I do is got a bachelor's in electrical engineering.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about this.
Yeah, we'll try to find somebody who really knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, there you go.
Aviation connectors are good, but again, they're I've used those before, and they're a pain in the butt solder because it's just so small in there getting all that to work. And still, you got to make sure you really get them soldered good and stuff. And
now there are cases where the aviation connector is necessary. For instance, our spindle. Our My Sweetie spindle comes with an aviation connector built in on the top. So there's no choice. You have to solder the 4 wires onto an aviation connector. If something goes bad, it's the spindle, and then you don't have to resolder anything. You just throw away the spindle, get a new one, boom, you're done. But
Yeah, Bart here says he likes the terminal block idea. It works great because even the motor on my Z that's going up and down, I have that like I said, that 12 inches of wire or whatever it is. I've got it doesn't look real pretty, but I've just got one of them terminal blocks screwed to the back behind the Z. And, there's enough room for it to go up and down and everything. And then I have the other wires screwed into that. So it's it works really well. I haven't had any issues with that. Larry says he cuts them off, solder the back with joint staggered heat shrink, and put a large heat shrink over the entire. So yeah, that's a good way to do it. And don't do like me when you solder something. You always have to unsolder it because you forget to put the heat shrink on first.
Brian,
you got to put it on and slide it out of the way, and I always forget that. And I'll get the first couple wires soldered, and I'm like, nuts! Have to unsolder it and redo it again. So
Brian was asking about MMN. MMN is Makers Media Network. I'll take this moment to plug our wonderful group. We have a hangout that's on every night. We chat woodworking. We chat, just about everything. And and help each other grow their channels if that's the case. Mostly it's just a group of people sharing the same interests in woodworking of all sorts.
Yeah.
Google it.
Yep. Okay. Well, any other questions? We're getting up here almost to the top of the hour, so we're going to wrap this one up here in a little bit. I've got about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left on my little timer button that reminds me.
Please take advantage to ask now, because during Dave's coffee sessions, he's going to completely ignore, not to be mean, not being mean. It's just coffee in the morning is not CNC session. He's going to ignore your CNC questions, so ask them now. Now's the time.
Yeah. I know, and I hope I don't piss anybody off. I may have, but but a lot of times when I'm doing my little morning coffee sessions things, I get people want to ask a CNC question, and that's not why I do that. It's just to hang out and see who shows up in the chat and to talk about anything and everything but CNC. That's what this show's for. Of course, if you need to ask a question, you can ask me directly with a private message or email or all that. But if you ask us CNC questions during a coffee session, and I start talking CNC stuff, then all the other people that don't care about CNC are not going to want. They're not going to want to stick around and watch that. So
here's a good question. It's somewhat of a common question. Joe Liddon's asking. He's making a 36 by 24, 36 by 24 or 24 by 36. What is your I know your opinion, but I'm going to ask anyway. Which way should the gantry go? What's the best way?
Well, there's really no right answer for that. It's however you want to do it. Mm-hmm. I personally like my machines wider on the X than deeper.
Yep.
Now, in the case of my Gatton CNC, it's about the same. Just because I'm using that frame from that other machine, and it was for a 4x4, which had pretty much a square frame. But one of my favorite machines, and if you've followed me and seen some of my old videos, were my little metal Sidewinder, not to be confused with the plywood shoestring budget thing, but the metal Sidewinder, the real Sidewinder. It has a cutting area of 40 wide across the X and only 26 deep. And I just like having them that way.
I'll tell you from personal experience, because I have a 24 by 36 machine that came with the thin side, the gantry on the thin side. I cannot stand it. I'm always running into the gantry because I'm operating it from the side, and you don't want to stretch over 3 feet deep, especially if you have keyboards and everything in the front of it. The best thing you could do is make it 36 wide with the gantry at 36 and 24 deep. That's, although I agree with Dave, it's up to you. There's no right answer. That's my right answer.
Yeah, and as far as the second part of his questions, where he's asking what length would the Acme rods have to be cut, you should if you're building a machine. Well, first of all, you should be buying one of mine. But if you're building one, you need to measure, because there's you got to figure the stepper motor and the coupler and the bearing on the other end and stuff. So you need to measure before you cut any Acme rods.
And even
unless you do like I do and you draw it up in a 3D model, then you know exactly what length it needs to be.
Well, what I did was what you recommended once to me, and I'll share this with everybody that's building a Gatton. Make it long by at least a foot, and then just let it stick out and cut it when you're ready, when you have it all built. That's what I did, and it's perfect.
Yeah, I think I did the same thing. I attached the coupler to the motor, then I put the Acme rod in, and then I let it stick out the end.
Let it stick out the end,
and then cut it off.
That's exactly the way to do it. That's the way I do it. And you
I
can
know
even
a lot of,
you can even undo the coupler and just unscrew it a little bit so you have room to put a grinder on it if you like.
yeah. Now, see, you can do it that way. I never install my lead screws until they're the right length, but you have to be careful because obviously if you cut them short, you're
Hmm.
screwed. But you got to you got to measure and make sure you get it right. But it's easy to do. If you watch my build videos, I show how to do that in I don't remember which one it is. It's probably 9 or 10, something like that. There's like a total of 11 build videos. Let's see here. Computer's running a little slow because of having StreamYard open.
Yeah,
Okay,
Todd.
yeah. It's actually number 10 right here. Let me screen share. But this one right here. And let's see. Yeah, here I'll speed it up a little. Here's where I'm showing it. You can see get off of there. You can see I've got there's not a lead screw here, so I'm showing how I've got just the end pieces clamped. They're not screwed in yet. And then here's the stepper motor back here. And if you watch this, you'll see that I show how to
Exactly how to align it.
measure. And you don't have to be right down to the, few thousandths of an inch of the length of your lead screw. You can, because there's enough threads in those couplers and stuff that, if you're within 1/8 of an inch, you're good. The problem is you don't want to be too long, although the way mine is designed is the lead screw can stick out through that bearing. I just don't like to have it sticking out because you'll be running into it and bumping into it and stuff. So you want it just where it's kind of flush with that.
Todd was saying he would think that the shorter gantry would be stronger, but maybe it's easier to load a wider front of the table. Absolutely. I've got sheets of 2x3. Since I have a 2x3 table, I often load sheets that are around 2x3, and it is a pain. I have to always move the gantry all the way to the side in order to get my sheet in, and or all the way to either to the back or to the front because I have it in an enclosure. If it were the other way, then I could just drop the sheet right in. As far as the strength is concerned, well, we talked earlier about standing on our gantries. I have never had an issue with any of my CNCs as far as strength. We don't own X-Carves. We don't own Shapokos or whatever those toys are.
Want to give a big thank you to Brian. He says, I did buy a nice Yeti mic from your affiliate link. I appreciate you guys that use the affiliate links. That helps. It helps me buy groceries and pay for websites and do some of the stuff I do. So I appreciate it very much. And you got a great mic. I can tell you got a great mic. You got a little Yeti mic. Jared was saying, some machines, X runs one way and, it just depends on the machine. One thing I did, and some of you guys may recall, when I did the shoestring budget thing, it was a narrow X or a narrow gantry, I should say, and a long table. And I don't like them that way, but the problem is I like to be able to stand at what I call the front of the machine, and the 2 lead screws are on the side. That, to me, that's the sides. But when you have a narrow one like that, some things when you go to program them, they don't fit that way. So now you got to turn them this way. So now when you're standing at what I call the front of the machine, you're trying to look at your project as it's cutting it, and you're looking at it 90 it's cocked 90 degrees now. And I like to be able to look at stuff, if it's got text in it, I go, okay, good, great. I didn't misspell anything. You don't have to stand sideways, or you don't have to go stand on the side of the machine to do it. So when I did that machine, I actually had what most people would have the gantry as the X. I had it the Y, and had the table as the X. Some people, when they built theirs, they swapped it the other way, and some people did it the same way I did. It doesn't matter. I mean, the machine will still run fine.
Yep.
The machine don't know any different, but it doesn't matter. But I personally like a big wide area for loading material and stuff like that.
Yep. Absolutely.
So okay,
and while it would take up a little more wall space, it'll take up a lot less floor space. There's always that to consider. Like Dave originally said, it's all a matter of preference. There are some people who don't have that much wall space but have a huge center, so they can let it stick out in the middle of nowhere. Again, but keep in mind where you're loading the material, because if you have very little wall space and you have a bunch of machines next to it, you cannot be loading material from the sides. You have to load it from the front. If you have a wide space, then think appropriately.
Yeah. Yeah, and really what when I first started, because I used to design back a long time ago when I first started building my own CNCs, that's kind of the way everybody had them. They always had the table long and a short gantry. And I think they did it because, the shorter the gantry is, they could build it out of cheaper stuff, and it wouldn't, it would be a little bit stronger, would have less flex and stuff. Because the longer you make it, then you got to beef things up to get rid of any flex there. But, I was working at a sheet metal shop right here in town, and they had a 4,000 watt laser, and I was standing in front of that thing, and that thing, you could run like 5x10 sheets of steel on it. And I mean, the thing was huge, because the footprint's like 6x12 or whatever. But unlike the other laser they had, the other 4,000, or I think it was a 3,000 watt laser, it had the long table, and it was what they call a hybrid, where the table moved instead of the gantry moving. It had the X, rode across that, but it didn't move. It was stationary, and then the whole table moved. But the newer one they bought, the table stayed still, and it had a gantry, but the gantry was over that 12-foot length. So the sheet came on that way. And when I sat there and watched that, I'm thinking, I'm going to build my next CNC that way. And I've been building them that way ever since. I like them that way much better. And I just like being able to throw the big wide piece up there, and as it's running, you see your project come to life, and you don't have to stand to the side to see it or read it. So, anyhow, we got any other questions? I see Joe Lidden, I think we got him squared away. Where did I see it? He says, I know it's okay. He said he's building
your CNC.
Building mine. I can't even remember. I can't remember everybody these days, so I didn't know if he had or not. Sounds good. And then he says, part 10. Yeah, that's to show you how to cut the lead screws. We got the wild man in the house tonight. How you doing?
Yeah, Brian's asking about a water jet. You may want to message Wildman, because it's possible he has had experience with that. I know he does a lot of metal work. But here at Gatton CNC, the plywood doesn't work well with water.
Yeah. And it's a little trickier to try to build your own water jet, because there's a lot of stuff to a water jet.
A lot
They're
of precision.
cool. I mean,
There's
no
a lot
doubt
of
they're cool.
precision welding involved. Yeah.
We had one where I worked. I wish I could think of the brand name of it now, but I if somebody says it out there in chat, I'll know it if I see it. But that thing would cut just, super thick stuff. Of course, it's slow.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're not fast. But man, they can cut through some thick stuff. Thick steel, too. Not just soft stuff. Thick steel.
Yep.
All right, my timer went off a little while ago. I guess we're going to wrap this one up. Thanks, everybody. We've had 60, 70 folks in here tonight. I appreciate all the thumbs up that y'all have left over there. If you haven't left a thumbs up, think about it, hitting it on your way out. I'd appreciate it. Steve Hent says, yeah, it's faster than an hacksaw. Yep, it's faster than an hacksaw. Sure is.
Yep.
Flowjet. No, that's not the brand it was. If you say it, Bart, I'll know it. I'm drawing a blank right now. It's been a while. So anyway, thank you all so much for coming here tonight. If you got any other questions, like I said, this is a place to come get them answered. As long as it's hobby CNC, I'm not gonna try to go into the industrial grade stuff. But
that's right. It's all about Javi's CNC.
Yeah, hobby CNC. Yeah. So thank you all for watching. We're going to get ready to sign out of here if I can find the right button.
Omex.
And again, I haven't even bothered showing any of my little banners here. If you do want to learn more about a Gatton CNC, I'm going to plug myself because this is how I eat. So if you want to learn more about a Gatton CNC, visit www.davegatton.com, which is the website I've been showing tonight. And also, don't forget about the Gatton CNC Christmas Challenge. It will officially start Black Friday, which is the 29th of November. And, check out the website if you want to get on that. And you don't have to have a Gatton CNC to get in the challenge. Any kind of CNC will do. Just check out the rules and stuff and how to enter over there on the website. And if you do want to join us for the coffee sessions, get your cup of coffee and come join me at 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, right here on the tubes or on Facebook. So there, I think I got all the plugging in.
There you go.
Thank you all, guys. We're gonna hit the button here and get out of here, I guess. If I can remember to hit the right.
Good night, all.
Yeah, this big wave. Even Rocky coming here to say good night. So see y'all next week.